Welcome to the Blind Apex Podcast, where amateur club racers tune in to get faster.
I want to apologize for the audio quality now. My microphone died. It wasn't planned and I didn't have a backup, but I apologize.
Hello, listeners. I'm your host, Con Jonchurk, and this is the Blind Apex Podcast. This podcast is going to cover the rules. No, I'm not going to read you the rules, but we're going to go into how they're developed and the process to get them adjusted. Joining me to politely discuss the topic, because the rules are never politely discussed anywhere else, is the National Honda Challenge Director, Marcel. How are you doing, sir?
Hello, sir. How are you? Good morning.
Well, it's morning for you. It's afternoon for me. So
yeah, that sucks.
East Coast, West Coast life. Yeah,
I know. And it's sunny for a change here, so that's good. That's why you can see my face right now.
Yeah, your screen probably froze with me on it because mine did. But
yeah, I sent you I put a picture of
me.
Myself in front of it so you can see me.
Okay, that's great. So Marcel,
yes, sir.
Yeah, this topic, I know we're going to talk Honda Challenge rules, but I know a lot of folks in GLTC that run SCCA. The process is fairly similar. There's minute changes. This is very Honda Challenge NASA centric, but in general, the big steps are basically how rules have been changed in all levels of racing. In every race organization that I know of, in every level. I mean, down to even remote control cars probably operate in some process like this. Right. So let's talk about who you are, because you are the National Honda Challenge Director, how you got there, and what kind of racing you're doing. Give us a little background on yourself, please.
All right, so let's start with the past then. I've been involved in racing since probably about 1984. I was born in Mexico, and I used to go to the F1 track when it was not an F1 track in Mexico City, running all those pony categories down there.
Right.
That's when I started. I mean, I don't know if you ever heard of Michel Jordan, Memo Rojas, all those guys. Well, I used to be with their dads. That's how far back I go there. That's
you're dating yourself.
I am. Trust me. Yeah, I know. I feel it every day. So that's when it started. Then I came here to the States, like everybody else, looking for an opportunity to grow, and back in the early 2000s, mid-2000s, I created a performance shop here in California. And so then I was thinking about, well, how do I get more involved in the local scene, right? And I came across NASA. So like everybody else should do, I grabbed the rule book at the time, and I built a car for NASA. For Honda Challenge. We were a Honda performance shop oriented, so it was just natural to me to just grab a chassis and just make it to the rules, and that's how I started. Went through my HPDE like everybody else, and started making connections back then. One of the very first connections that I did, I approached this guy. He's standing there. With his race suit, older guy, and he had, I believe, 3 Integras at the time running in H1. And I approached this guy, and I introduced myself, and we turned out to become very good friends. And I think that you heard about this guy, Jeff Owen, Kiwi.
Yeah, trust me.
Projects.
Most people are running, Special Projects Motorsports.
Yes.
Most of the Golden Era cars are running some part from. So.
That's right. And we became really good friends. To this point, we're still really good friends. We talk all the time. He used to sponsor a couple of my parts, but I've never been too big in sponsorships. I try to do everything by myself. So that's how basically I started. Then I started introducing myself to the family of Honda Challenge down here, and started making really good friends. Besides, they became my customers for the shop, but they became really good friends of mine. I don't think that there is a one Honda Challenge car here in Southern California that hasn't gone through the shop one way or another. It can be engine, it can be the car complete, and I'm going back to the likes of I don't know if you heard about him, Renan Bayer, Jeremy Crosset. Probably heard about Jeremy Crosset. That's when he was just a Honda Challenge racer. So that's where I started my journey with Honda Challenge.
So when were you a rookie?
I think it was in 2000. 2001.
Okay. Yeah.
And,
so yeah, go ahead.
So one of the things that drove me into Honda Challenge and NASA in 2008 in Mid-Ohio, H1, there was a guy by the name of Bernardo Martinez that won the championship. At that time, here in the West Coast, we were already running the K-Series engines. And he came in with an Integra with a K24 and pretty much just wipe out the field. And
Bernardo was fast.
Bernardo was really fast. And I still have a little bit of contact with Bernardo. He's still around. He doesn't race us anymore, but he's still around. He stay in the group. At least we hear about him from time to time. And that's when I saw the publications online and everything about Bernardo Martinez and his K24 Integra. There's a picture that to this point I still remember. It's a picture of the car on top of the dyno in Nationals, and he's standing behind the car, and they're dynoing the car. And it was a very controversial car at the time. It had different pistons. It had a couple of different things that starting then, the rules had to be adjusted because of that car. And it just...
Was he the one running the S2000 crank?
I believe so, yes.
I think so.
I believe so, yeah.
Which is, there's literally a rule written, there's a line that says no S2000 cranks.
Correct.
So.
Yeah, and that's when everything. Yeah. I mean, that's how you can see the progression of how some of the rules are written, right? Then in 2009, in Salt Lake City, Renan came in with his E16 EG, and he almost lapped. If there was a very controversial yellow flag at that race. But he could have probably catch the tail end of H2 at that time. But I believe that he was also running E85. So guess what happened? Then
no E85. Pump
then
gas
we
only.
go to pump gas only. So it's one of those things that you just have
I think
to
that
find
car also.
Yeah.
I think that car also put down 200 horsepower.
It was over 200
Was
horsepower.
it there
yes.
that they put over 200 horsepower out of
Yes.
a B16
Yeah.
at Miller Motorsports Park, which is basically at altitude?
Yes.
Like, it's way up there. So they came in with a gunslinging engine.
Yep.
And these are the type of events that force the change to the rules?
Yeah, it was him, Renan, and his mechanic, good friend Kono of Midnight down here in Wilmington. That he's also a friend of mine. And I mean, once you're in NASA, you become a part of the community, part of the family, right? So then you start meeting everybody, you start talking to everybody, and making connections, and that's going back to my past. That's how I started. That's making connections here and there, and then basically just getting to know everybody. And everybody started just coming to me. All the guys that had a Honda Challenge car, they were in my shop, and one thing or another. There's also guys that wanted to enter and never did. Johnny Hano is one of them that I'm still hoping that one day he brings out his 99 SI back out and tries to run again. I haven't talked to Johnny in a long time. I built a cage for him, and but that's how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. I know early on, because the year you were a rookie was my first year working for NASA. So I started as a corner worker in year 2000. And outside of the Ferrari Challenge cars that were testing, that sounded like the devil himself was riding down the straightaway.
Yes.
The Honda Challenge cars caught my eye immediately. And so those are the guys I gravitated towards back in 2000. In talking to them, there was still a big East Coast, West Coast rivalry. You'd think it was the rap era. I mean, it was the end of what I consider the rap era. And anyway, they were really sticklers on the rules. But when I read the rules, to me, because reading the rules, my college car club was associated with the SCCA when we were doing autocrosses. And so a lot of us were trying to figure out where we were going to go. We were volunteering with NASA. But the rules initially were very pro crossover. You could take a ITA car and run H4. Yeah. You can run like a ITD car to run H5. Obviously, H5, H3 don't exist anymore. Maybe we'll get into that later, but it was very much a crossover event. Yeah. And back in 2000, you guys had open tire. Every class had an open tire.
Yeah.
So, and that was a big change that caused some internet drama.
Of course.
When we went to the Toyo.
Of course.
It was pretty bad. I mean, but yeah, the rules themselves have had to evolve over, 20 something years now,
That's about it. Yes. Yeah.
So outside of, let's not even ignore the outside of those major events like 200 plus horsepower V16s. And that was an H2, I believe, right? Or was it H1 car?
No, it wasn't H2. He was chasing H1s.
Yeah. I mean, that's out of control, ridiculous. But if it's allowed in the rules, let her rip, right? The rules will get changed. Let's talk about the rules process. So,
all right.
When an event like that happens, nationals happen, and somebody walks away from the field and they have something that's gray area, you can't say yes or no. How does the rules committee take that?
Well, let's start with how we create the rules, or how we decide, how we think, every race organization has basically a rule committee, right? It just so happens that NASA, we call ourselves a semi-professional club, right? We're club racers. We're not dedicated racers, professional racers. We don't have the budget, maybe some,
right?
But 99% of us, we don't have the budget. We don't have the phone book attached to the checking account, right? So we don't have the luxury of arrive in a car hauler and have a team of mechanics and all these things. So those guys, they have a rules committee that has probably nothing to do with they don't race. The rules committee in a lot of the professional organizations, they don't race. They're not the ones that are in the car racing after they type a rule, right? We do.
Right.
The guys that are in the rules committee are the same guys that are on the track with us, or, every weekend. Every region has a member of the rules committee running with them. So that was done. I invited let me back up a little bit more. So your question was, how did I get to be the rules committee, the National Honda Challenge, right? That was one of the topics that we were going to talk about. So,
yeah, early on, yeah.
So 2018, mid-2018, there was a little bit of a disconnect between whoever was in charge of doing the rules and the national committee. At one point, there was some restructuring that was being done, and suddenly we started realizing that there was some stuff that was going into the rules that didn't really make a lot of sense to some people. And there was people
Right.
that there was some of the guys that started questioning why the rules were done the way they were, because there were no requests, there was nothing that was sent to do those changes. So one of the guys that I know, that he's also a really good friend because we are from Southern California and all these things, besides being Jeremy Crusett, is Ryan Flaherty. I don't know if you know who Ryan Flaherty is.
Yes, I do.
So he and Jeremy, and at the time Sean Massey, which was the national race director, they asked me if I could volunteer to get in the position to try to structure a little bit better the situation. Okay, so I went in the first nationals in Texas as the national director. At the time, there was two of us. We were co-national directors. Chad Slag was one of them, and I was the other one. Okay, so
Chad.
It was Chad. So
Yeah.
he
I'm
was not
familiar with Chad.
Well, we all are. I mean, it's a family.
Yeah.
So he was not able to go to Texas. I was able to go to Texas. Then the next year, it was at I believe in 2019. 2019, it was Mid Ohio, I think it was. Or
yeah, I think it was Mid.
And
I think it was Mid Ohio.
Yeah, I think it was Mid Ohio. I was not able to go. He was there. That's when Rob Kreider showed up with his Rob, and he showed up in his B18 H4, and everybody was saying that car was way too fast. So that's how it started. I was asked to participate as the national director, and I said, well, okay, we can do that. We need to structure a little bit better this thing. So how do I start with the structure? How can I give this a little bit more the ways for everybody to get into it, into the rules, and
Right.
I talked to Jackie. We talk a lot, me and Jackie.
I'm sure
she's my.
I talk with her all the time too. So
yeah, she's always been my go-to when there's something going on. The very first person that gets the phone call is her. And I rely quite a bit on her.
So I have some beef with that.
Okay.
I have some beef with that. And mostly because I haven't had her on the podcast yet to ask her directly.
Yeah.
But she has some thought that, and she probably is going to listen to this and then send me a message, but she has some thought that these 8th gen Civics have an H2 advantage.
Okay. But we'll get to that.
Because I talked to her a little bit. Yeah. I talked to her a little bit about, I'll just throw a K24 in it and come play an H1. And she was like, well, then you would lose your advantage. But she never told me what the advantage is. And I can't find one yet.
Well,
so
I'll touch on that too. So, but with the understanding, she is an opinion that I get, but she's not the only opinion that I have. Okay. There is a few more guys in the rules committee. So I talked to her and I said, look, this is what I want to do. I want every series leader from around the nation to be a participant on the rules committee. Okay. So I invited Mike, Daniel, Michael. I mean, I invited everybody that was a series leader, that was an authorized series leader by the regional director. Okay. So it's not like, hey, I'm the series leader and, I'm here. No, you have to be recognized in your region as your series leader. Okay. So, the communication, as you can see, the little problems that we had before, it's a little bit hard. It's hard to have everybody at the same time in a conference call, or there's times difference. There's work involved. We all work. We all have a life outside this. So it's a little bit hard for everybody to be able to sit down and say, hey, let's have a session. And then one topic can carry on for an hour and a half. So who has 3 hours of, to sit down and I have so many opinions that it takes a while to sort them out. So we created the rules committee as it is right now, as you all guys know. And the very first thing that I was very clear on is I am not the one that's going to decide what is going to be done. This has to be, we have to communicate, we have to give our opinions, and it's going to be based on who votes for yes, who votes for no. Okay? And I'm just one of them. I don't say, this is how it's going to be done, and you guys have to follow my lead. Never been like that. So that's how we do it. We get a rules request from a participant, and then we all talk about it. We all give our opinions and why it can be done and why it cannot be done, based on we have different. Every participant in the rules committee has a different background, if you want, and different knowledge of certain areas. And we tend to listen. If somebody has a more technical knowledge on that particular rule change request, then we tend to listen a little bit more to that person. Okay. Or if you have this engine that somebody wants to do something with an engine, and one of the rules committee members has had that engine and run it for 5 years and has done just about everything in the world to it, then we tend to listen a little bit more to that person because of their expertise in that particular topic. Okay, so that's kind of how it goes.
So, for all the Honda Challenge guys, any of the people that are potentially doing Honda Challenge, what it sounds like to me is you have to get out, meet all the series leaders, and convince all the series leaders before you submit your form that it should be passed. That's my tip. That's my tip.
No, it's not. No. So let's say, for example, let's just talk about something that, whatever. I want to have, I think that if we change the color of the valve cover in the D series, whatever, it's going to be beneficial for everybody, and we got to make it a rule, so then that gets presented to the committee. and we all start talking about it. Like somebody's going to be, well, I mean, it's going to depends now what kind of color you want, right? Do you want to powder coat it? Do you want to spray it? What do you want to do? Well, it's going to cost money if we send it to the sandblaster. It's going to. These are all the things that start coming together. It's not just about somebody thinking about one thing. And I think this can be bitching because we can do it. Well, there's a lot involved into making that a rule for everybody, because everybody's going to have to try to find a way to do this thing. There was a rule request, and I can't remember who. It might have been you. I don't know.
It probably was
the request for the splitters last year.
No, that wasn't me.
Okay,
but I saw it.
Oof. So there was a request about changing the shape of the splitter on the cars, because because not everybody could achieve the 3-inch blade on the splitter because of the different shapes of the car. Now, you have 99%.
My car is one of them.
Your car is one of them. Well, I can tell you that if you give me your car, I can achieve a 3-inch blade in your car with no problem. Okay, but it's how you do it.
Well, it's how you do it, and yes. you can do it. You absolutely can do it. I could go downstairs right now because I'm building my splitter right now.
Yeah,
because they don't make there's no Kiwi kit for my car, right? So I have to build it myself. Okay,
right.
Big deal. Not the end of the world for me. Huh. I could do it, but if you look at all the airflow data, it's going to actually exponentially increase drag versus the effect of what I need. And so, yeah, I think it can be done, but it can't be done efficiently. So there's no need for it necessarily. And to be honest, there's other cars that do it very efficiently, very easily, let's say. Now, I'm not abdicating that we need to have a 3-inch lip. I just think that it can be done, but everybody has to weigh the cost benefit of it.
Right. Well,
and if you give that guy 3 inches and you give another guy 3 inches, they may have an advantage. That's what you guys are weighing, right? You're looking at every chassis, everyone out there, and you're saying, hey, this rule applies to everybody.
That's a good thing that you just mentioned. It has to apply to every chassis. So let me go back a little bit on this. In the early stages of Honda Challenge, in the early days of Honda Challenge, when they created this rule book, okay, it was created for a very few chassis, and it was created for very few cars. You didn't have
and few engines.
Well, you didn't have any of this crazy cars that we have now. That the K series, the J series, the F,
the F22s,
so the F22s and the F20s, and then you had D series, B16, and B18s. Right? Basically, that was your pool of cars, of engines that you could use. The H22, it was not widely used because I don't know why. I mean, I had one and it was awesome, but I believe that there was something with the cylinders that you can't overboard the cylinder, and so everybody stayed more into the B18s and B16s and D series. And the chassis that you had available at the time, it was the CRX, the EG. Maybe they were starting to introduce the EKs, and everybody wanted to go with B16, at least here, B16 CRX for H2. That was the ticket here. And for a while, that was the car that was raced until, probably mid 2015, maybe. I believe Jackie had also a B16 in his EG, in her EG, and Renan Bayer and Jeremy Crozet and just about everybody. Jonathan Maris, when he won the 2011 Miller Motorsports Park, that turned out to be a crap show. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but he won in Miller, I think it was 2011, and he had a B16 in his EK. And that was the engine to run. Everybody wanted one, at least the people that I know, until some of the K-Series started showing up here. But what I'm going to is the rules were created for a certain amount of cars and certain amount of chassis. Now you have a progression, natural progression, because now you have newer cars, you have newer engines, and the engines that were then, they're starting to phase out. So that creates a whole.
We have a rule. You don't have a rule. You have a notation.
A notation that I
now.
Yep. That it was
and
done.
I think it. Yeah. So I think that notation.
Yep.
Should put H4 on notice that it may not stay around forever.
H4, the way I see it, is probably going to go away unless, I mean, we have the newer chassis in H4. It's in there. Nobody has done anything with it. You know, we have.
Wait, what new chassis?
We have the 2000s chassis in H4. You didn't
How
see
did
that,
I miss
Ken?
that?
Ken, you didn't see that?
No. I read the rules. I read the rules once a week. Oh, sorry. Okay. The Honda Fit doesn't count.
No, there's another one in there.
The Honda Fit will never count because they all get bought and turned into Sunday Cup cars.
Well, there's
Grid Life bought all the Honda Fits.
Grid Life. I don't know.
I actually think it would dominate, to be honest.
I don't think anything. I don't know anything about Grid Life, to be honest, because we don't have them on this side. I mean, it'd be interesting to see something about them, but I don't know anything about them. No.
But the only plus 2000 car I see is the Honda Fit. But at its weight, I believe it will dominate.
The thing is that nobody has tried.
No. Oh no, I do see the 0611. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
The Civic DX LX EX. I
was starting to doubt myself on that, man. Come on.
No, it's in there.
Yeah. So, but it's in there. So who has ever bothered to make one? Nobody, right? I actually have an 07 sitting. I have an 07 chassis sitting back there, courtesy of Kiwi. It's sitting in my backyard, and I haven't even touched it. So, but that's the thing, that there is a potential for growth in there, but everybody prefers to run the golden era chassis until they're going to disappear. The engines at D series, it's just about impossible to even find a D series anywhere. If you find one,
they used to get recycled.
Well, you were able up to, I don't know, 10 years ago, they were $100. I could buy a D series for $100.
We used to get them for free.
They give them away, right? And now it's like, if you find one, they want $1,000 for, if not more, for something like that. So, I mean, it's just becoming ridiculous on those parts for B series transmissions. There is absolutely nothing you can find new. There's nothing. Yep. I know of a couple of guys out there that are trying to develop gears, and if they ever hear this, they know who they are, and they ask me not to say anything, but they are trying to develop gears for the Type R. And I think there's already a shop somewhere that has gears for Type R. So then we write in the rules, hey guys, you can put any gear that fits in your shafts without modification or modification to the case. Any gear ratio goes. It has to be helical, and it has to fit the case, and it has to
and
fit
a factory number, right?
It has to be factory. No, it doesn't say anything about factory.
It has to be the
number.
Factory ratio. The factory ratio? No.
See, that's where there's a little bit of a wiggle room there. Yes, it's factory ratio, but there's different series of transmissions. There's different ratios in there. So as long as it's a factory ratio on the table, then I guess you can use it, right?
Yeah.
But we did this because you can't find anything for B18 LS. Nothing. There's actually all the second gear sets, third gear sets for just about every B series transmission has been completely discontinued. I don't think you can find any main shafts. I don't think you can find any casings for that matter. So the LS, GSR, and Type R, they share the same case, right? It's all the same case. There's no difference in those cases. The internals are the difference, right? Now, the second gear set for a GSR fits on the second gear set of an LS. One is double cone, the other one is single cone. Same thing. Just use it. If you can find one instead of the other one. It's a matter of people that are running these early transmissions and engines. They're going to have to get a little bit more creative because there's no parts, and there's absolutely nothing that us as the rule committee or as directors or racers or whatever, there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. That's why we put there.
Yeah, they need to hoard all their parts. If they find them, they need to hoard the parts.
They need to find the parts first. And so that's why we put there that notice, right, that says that, guys, please stop sending rules requests for all these engines that are 45 years old, because eventually what we want to do is we want to move away from this. We want people to start using newer stuff. We want people to evolve into, you have done it. You went to a newer chassis. You're running the K series. Yeah. So now the growing pains is on you.
I'll tell you what, the drag racers have burned up all the K series parts.
Damn drag racers.
Way hard to find.
I know. So, this is what we face, right? So let's say you and me, we're in the rules committee right now, and you get a rules request right now. We cannot find any more parts for K series transmission. There's nothing, absolutely nothing anywhere, but I want to run my K series. So you send me a rules request. Hey, there's Special Projects. Special Projects is making a gear set. It's a dog set, but it works on K series. And it costs, I don't know, $2,500, $3,000, whatever the case is. I want to be able to run that set in my K series. So you send the rule request and you put there, because I can't find any parts anymore. So I want to race. I want to use my K series, but I can't find parts. And this is things that we've seen, right? I can't find parts, right, but I want to race. And this is my solution. So now you and me, we sit together with another 6 guys or 5 guys, whatever the case is, and we go over it. And then you're going to tell me, well, yeah, but to be fair, the gear ratios are not the same, right? These are different gear ratios. Is going to give him an advantage. Okay, but I tell you, but we cannot find parts. So what do we do? And then another guy says, well, the thing is, too, that it's a dog set. So now he's got an advantage over helical because he can just bang gears while we have to use the clutch, whatever.
Right.
And, okay, well, that's a concern, right? That's something that it's concerning to the guys that can't buy that. Another factor is how much it's going to cost. I don't have $3,000 laying around to dump in a transmission and try to be competitive with the guy that has the budget to do it, right? I need tires. I don't even have enough money for tires, and this guy is going to go dump $3,000 in his transmission. So let's say that you and me and everybody else in the rules committee will says, hey, you know what? Yeah, let's allow it. Okay, let's allow the use of aftermarket gears in the transmission, mitigate the lack of procureness in parts, right? Let's say that we do that. The guy shows up the next event and he basically puts everybody down he goes and walks away with 15 seconds advantage. He's faster than everybody else. Guess what those guys are going to tell me? Or you're going to be there because you were in the rules committee. You're going to be sitting there. They're all going to come to you and they're going to blast you a new one because we allow the use of aftermarket. So now all the guys that are using the parts, guess what? Yeah, that has to be illegal, man. So now, first you allow this to happen, right? And now you have to find a way to not allow it to happen anymore. So what do? Well, you sit down again and says, well, you know what? If we allow them to have the aftermarket parts, but he walk away with 15 seconds over the best driver that we have on the region, maybe now we need to give him 200 pounds. So, these are the real things that we face when we are in the rules committee. Now, let me put this out here. Other sanctioning bodies, they have, when I said that the rules committee doesn't race, this is all they do. This is what they get paid for. They get paid to sit down and go through the rules, right? And make everybody even. They have data, they have information, they have test drivers, they have all this structure just to get to the point to say all the cars are even on the track. And then even then, they get it wrong. Sometimes they get it wrong.
And okay? More than sometimes. I think to be honest, I feel like even the pro, you guys are volunteers. You guys are all volunteers doing this because you love the sport. Yes. You love the class.
Yep.
That's why you guys do this. And let me be the first one to openly thank you for all the time and effort you guys put in, because I know I put in a ridiculous amount of rules requests sometimes. But even the pro level, I think they missed. They missed 25% of the time, maybe.
And this is after having data, right? Because they have test sessions. They go out there and they throw the rule book out and they tell the constructors, they say, okay, this is your rule set. Now build the car. And these guys, they build a car a year in advance. 6 months, a year in advance, they grab the rules, they sit down and they say, okay, let's build the car. Let's take, for example, Continental Series. When the Kia was launched, right? They launched the Kia, and it was already competing against cars that were already well set up, right? But they built the car to the rules, and the car was not doing good. You know, besides, I think he was burning turbos and all kinds of crazy stuff, but the car wasn't doing good. They had to readjust until they made everybody competitive. And this is part of what we see in Honda Challenge versus we see against other rules, other set of rules for different series. We are not a spec class. As much as everybody would like to think, in my opinion, we are not a spec class. We have so many different chassis, so many different engines, so many different everything. The variables around are huge because you can have the same chassis.
Yeah, there's a million combinations.
Yeah, I mean, you can have the same chassis with 3 different engines, 3 or 4 different engines. You can drop a K. Let's talk about H2. You can have let's say an EG, okay, a 95 EG, or you can drop a K24, you can drop a K20 Type S, you can drop a K20A3, you can drop a B18 Type R, a GSR, B16. I mean, just in the same chassis right now, top of my head, I already have 6 combinations, different weights.
Right.
So now you take those 6 different. Every car has to be set up different, right? You have to account for the weight distribution.
Yes.
You have to account for where the engine sits, because I don't know if people had opened those hoods, but K series engines sit on the opposite side of the B series. So now your weight distribution just got completely shifted, right?
And they're more forward facing. They're more in front of the axles than the B series.
And
in a swapped car.
If you use there's a set of motor mounts that you can actually set it more forward. You know, you almost don't have any room for the radiator, but then you start blowing axles and all that stuff, and that's a different topic. But so now you have a guy that is running an EG with a K20A3, and you have a guy that's running with a B18, and now the guy with the B18 walks away, and the K20A3 is like, man, I didn't even have anything for him. I want more power. So let me make a rule request that says that I need extra 20 horsepower to be able to keep up with him. You know,
I'll take all the 20 horsepower you want to give me.
Well, I know everybody would, right? Everybody would be happy with,
yeah.
And but then how you achieve that, and how you ensure that that is actually the case, because we cannot base our opinion and our rule-making decision based on one driver. I am sorry, guys, but one driver doesn't dictate what other 50 guys out there can do. Maybe you're meat pack, and there's guys that are just meat pack. I'm sorry, but you know, you have to. Well, in giving you 30 horsepower is not going to make a lot of a difference until you know, your driving style betters, right? But you give, I don't know, give Jonathan Baker another 20 horsepower, or Mike, or I mean, you know, the top guys given 20, 30 horsepower, you won't see them again. But then they take that rule and says, hey, you know, hey, they gave us 20 horsepower, so screw it, let's put 20 horsepower in the car and let's go. You know, and then you have the 80% of the field coming to you and trying to kill you because you give the guy 20 horsepower. So what do you do?
Well, yeah, I mean, every November, December, January, whenever the rules come out, there's a lot of text messaging, instant messaging going on about between friends and groups.
Oh yeah,
it's incessant about. You know, oh my gosh, did you see this?
Every end of the year, and I press I press the send button on the rules. Then I grab my blanket and I had in my closet for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't get on social media. I mean, there's death threats. There's all kinds of things that that happen.
I hope they're not taking it that serious about death threats, but
well, look, we all passionate about what we do. There was this last rules release. I mean, it became. To be honest, I was kind of expecting it already, and I actually joked with the guys at the rules committee. You know, I told them, hey, you know, brace because it's coming, you know, and and it did. I didn't get disappointed, but this is the thing. I talk I talked to certain individuals that were not happy, and I think that we had a very good outcome on the situation. And I don't think that there's any problem mentioning what and how, but it was just a big misunderstanding that we had. Okay, and after talking for a while, it was I talked to Justin Colbert, okay, because he was not very happy about the way that the weights were given to the J series. This is what I told Justin, and I think we had a really good, productive situation and conversation. I told him that, Justin, I'm sorry, but the reality is that anybody has run a J series in an S2000. So to be honest with you, the weights that we are giving the car, there is no data. There is nothing that we can back up that what we are writing on the rules about this. We are trying to include this car and we are trying to include these engines in the rule set, but we don't have data. There's nothing that we can say, okay, you know what? We need to give it 2,800 pounds instead of 3,100 pounds. Or maybe we need to give it 3,500 pounds instead of 3,200 pounds. There is nothing that we have as a rules committee. We don't have the experience. We don't have the data. We don't have anything with these engines. So what I need you to do is go out there, talk to the guys in your region and tell them, guys, I'm going to be running this setup with different configurations or whatever. Feed me data, man. Give us data. Let us know what are you getting so we can start creating something comprehensive for this setup. And that goes for just about everybody else. It's the only data that we have available to us is horsepower of the engine in its if you want to call it purest form, in its factory setting, right? That's the horsepower that we get from Honda. What it's the engine capable of at the moment of production. This is not the case once you change your ECU, once you change your intake manifold, your throttle body, your tuning, everything you don't know what it is. So I need data. I can't pull a magic number out of my ass and say this is what it's going to be and this is what it stays, because that's not the case. Everything has to be adjusted, right? So I talked to him.
Yeah.
And we came to the understanding that he was going to do that. He was going to talk to the guys that are running H1 in his region, and they will know that he was going to be trying different stuff, and that's where we're at right now. He's in a year. Let's call it a year of development to where we know what the car can do. Does it make sense?
I had the same. Yeah, absolutely. I had the same issue. I mean, but a different side of the car, right? I spent almost $3,000 just on top hats for my McPherson struts to try to get camber, right?
Right. And
then I basically asked for a second way to get camber on a corner for a McPherson strut because I had the factory top hat.
Yes.
Well, not factory. The one that came with the coilover that didn't give me anything. Then we put on a top hat that was actually mounted to the factory mounting plates, but underneath the car. So instead of it going up and through the hole, we shifted everything down so we could slam it in further. And what we measured, there was flex in that system. It was almost impossible to shift it down and not create a leverage on the strut tower. And we didn't even run it anywhere. It was on the machine.
Yep.
And then I bought another set and I bought a fourth set. So I was on I aimed with one set and I bought 3 sets and we could not find acceptable camber. And so I put the rules request in and I said, hey, I've tried X, Y, and Z and I can't get it. Right.
And what happened to your rules request?
That's part of the development of the car.
No,
it was approved.
Exactly,
now,
because
eventually, yeah.
Well, but it was approved because we recognized the need of what was going on with that type of chassis, right? But when you come and you tell me that this is a real need that you have, and everybody else that is running this type of chassis is going to face, this is what's going to happen, right? They're all going to be and they're all going to try to find more performance out of a suspension setup that is basically not ideal. And that's what we know about this type of cars. The suspension setup in these cars is not going to be as good as the golden era cars. Now, the one way to cure this is that everybody's running the same chassis, right? But that's not going to be possible. You're going to have to pry them off their cold dead hands.
That's not how Honda Challenge works.
Yeah, well, you have to pry them off their cold dead hands. Those Integra chassis and those, that we're going to be 80 years old and we're still going to be running around in CRXs. I don't know how. So that's the reality. But when somebody, there was a rule request done a while ago that somebody had already a car that was built and they wanted to run Honda Challenge, but they had a carbon fiber top on the car. So they wanted that to be allowed so they could get their car in. So now, do I cater to the one person, or do I look at the everybody in general? Because if I give somebody carbon fiber top, now everybody's going to have to run and get a carbon fiber top. That's going to be but
I'll be cutting the roof off of my car.
Yeah, right. I mean, you put cardboard on there, but I can't do that because not everybody. I go back into the same. Not everybody has the ability, capability, money, the money to do these things. So I'm sorry, but no. You want to run Honda Challenge, you're going to have to take your carbon fiber top and you're going to have to put a steel skin that you can find at the junkyard. I'm sorry. There's that has to happen.
I just feel like now I'm not a trailblazer with the 8th gen chassis. I'm not the first person to run it. I won't be the last person to run it. I'm not sure how anybody ahead of me got camber, but when you're in that role, like Justin's in my region.
Yep.
When you're in that role of trailblazer, you have to be able to provide the data and you have to be able to be very concise. Now, I have no doubt that Justin will build an engine to the maximum of the rules. Okay. But that's the other thing, especially on the horsepower front. In H1 and limited prep cars for H2, when those things occur, you have to look at how far was that engine built to the rules and what power was coming out and what curve does it look like.
Right.
So when you talk horsepower, it becomes a big deal. That's a hard thing to manage. You're looking at weights, you're looking at torque curves, you're looking at horsepower curves, you're looking at the amount of horsepower you can make.
And then you're also looking at...
It becomes complicated.
Now, and we know this too, that 200 horsepower in a front-wheel drive car is not the same as 200 horsepower in a rear-wheel drive car.
Correct.
Every chassis is different. So now, not only you're managing that horsepower that you're getting, but you're also going to have to manage what type of chassis it's going into. And furthermore, you put that 200 horsepower into a 8th or 9th generation engine chassis with a front wheel drive like yours, and you put it in 99 Integra, and now you have a completely different car again.
Oh yeah.
So, how do you manage all this? How do you go about managing every single chassis that is out there and make it fair for everybody? Because at the end, at the end of the day, Ken, that little $5 trophy that you get for spending thousands of dollars for a weekend, the only thing that I can think of that is worth it is the satisfaction of being able to race against the guys competitive and drive that car up on the trailer in one piece at the end of the day on Sunday. I think that's the best satisfaction that you can get when a race weekend happens. Is that just to be able to be with a bunch of knuckleheads the same as you and have fun and everybody be competitive, but that's why we have a hard job, because we have to make everybody competitive. We have to satisfy the needs of just about everybody that goes to the track.
Yeah. The other thing, I believe every rules request is written selfishly. So every time I submit
because
a rules request, it started selfishly.
It's based on your needs. It's based on one single person need. It's not based on a group. Because we don't take that in consideration. We only take ourselves as the subject, and this is what I need to make myself better, right? And yeah,
right.
Of course they are. Of course, every single rule request is written to satisfy the needs of one person, which is the guy that is writing the rules, and and we need to make sure that it satisfies the needs of everybody else, not just that person. And when it's not approved or when it's denied, and it's sometimes all hell breaks loose, man. It's like, oh my God, here we go again on Facebook and
yeah, of course. That's my favorite. The Facebook stuff is my favorite. So let's talk about the denial.
The denial. Okay. What do you want to know?
Because section 1.3 says that the rules committee is going to respond. Are we back doing that? Because I believe that's been in the rules for a long time.
Look,
and so
yes,
are we? Because I think that would help.
I can tell you that
it would calm some folks down. Maybe
we're a little bit guilty of not responding in time, or sometimes not responding on certain rules.
Okay.
Well, let me put it this way. The rules that I don't respond or we don't respond to are just ridiculous requests, man. It's one of those things that if we are going to start responding and telling people, come on, man, seriously, think about what you're asking. They're going to get their feelings hurt anyway. But we try to answer the person that is doing the request. But I mean, how do we answer to that person? How do we give them the news that his request? Do we write him a letter? Do we make a memorandum? Do we tell everybody? Do we just tell that particular person? And that person is going to take it on and go and tell everybody else that his request was denied, but they didn't give him any reason for it, or we give him the reason. But then to give somebody a reason, then you need to make a whole process of, this is what we went through, this is what we talk about, and this is the result of our talk, our communication. Sometimes it becomes a little bit.
Maybe I'll send you a request. I'll start typing up my requests, because it says all requests will receive a response or request for additional information from the rules committee within 2 weeks of the date received.
Well, yeah, but
that might be.
This is when there is need for more information. So you send your request, and if it's deemed doable, but we need more. Hold on, let me get to that thing, because
the follow-up sentence says any rule not implemented will be provided with an explanation as to why it was denied. So I guess that's not in the 2-week window. Maybe we could clean that up. We could lawyer it up a little bit.
I mean, I know somebody that
I just want to set expectations for people.
I have somebody that has been kind of helping me pretty good with the redacting of the rules. I don't know if you know this guy.
Possibly.
Yeah, I think
I might know him.
Yeah, I think you know him.
Probably.
Have you?
Mostly because I think I sent Michael Young like 17 grammatical typo error rules requests. So
I
couldn't help myself. I was reading it.
I know your name keeps constantly coming up in the rules requests, and I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. Now, to be completely clear about this, and you know this pretty much better than anybody else, I'm very approachable, Ken, when it comes up to trying to get something out of me, because you and me, we probably talk about like 6 times every day about your request.
I don't know if it's that bad. At least once a week.
We talk constantly, okay? And see, and another thing too, and I'm going to put this out there too. I'm going to put you on the spot too, Ken.
That's fine.
Remember,
let's do it.
Let's do it. So, in your Facebook, we go back to Facebook, man. We need to ban that Facebook. I honestly, and for everybody to know, I was against opening that Facebook forum there. Okay, exactly for this reason. Yeah. But then again, I'm not the one that makes all the decisions, so the forum was open. Okay. Remember when you were one of the main voices of concern? Let me put it that way. You were one of the main voices of concern in the Facebook group about the rules, the way that they were redacted, and they were convoluted, and they were redundant, and I understand that, right?
Yep.
So what did I do? Did I approach you? Yes, right? I think I messaged you.
Yep.
And I basically said, well, you know what? Why don't you help me to redact the rules, to clean them up?
Right.
Isn't that's
we
what
still
I
have
did,
work
right?
to do, by the way. But
I know.
Yeah. No, but that's
your fault.
even in my posts,
yeah.
Even in my posts on the evil Facebook group, that it always gets derailed. But anyway, I still wanted to make a point that you guys are volunteers. You obviously have expertise in different areas, but if you needed help, we as racers, instead of being hypercritical, we should be we should give of our time.
Exactly. So,
and I think that's important.
And you know what? The help that you have provided, the NASA Honda Challenge as a group, it's invaluable, man, because this is what happened. The rules were created, who knows when. I mean, people talk about, the early 1800s, whatever. So the rules were created, but instead of adjusting the rules, we just kept writing more and more and more on top of what was already in there. It was never really cleaned up. It was just, okay, there's this new engine. Let's just put it in the rules. There's this class, whatever the case is, is okay. Well, just write it there. Just change it, write it, and put another line, and put another line. So, with your help, which it was almost you I'm going to put all the blame on this on you. Okay. So anybody that's listening that wants to
I'll take all the blame.
direct any hate mail, please right hand, not me. And we cleaned up quite a bit. We made it a little bit more comprehensive, right? We made it a little bit.
When you guys released, and you only provided me with the new $2,000 ECU, I was so excited.
I know
it was like, yes, and I was like, no. That's my section.
Yeah,
get out of restricted prep. If I can't play in limited prep, you can't play in restricted prep. And so it got fixed. I knew it was a mistake.
Yeah. Well, and this is another facet of this situation too. As we all know, the Texas region, it's a fairly new region to the NASA Honda Challenge community, right? And
right.
So Dane has done a fantastic job of trying to organize the situation down there with the help of Scott Adams, and all the guys. And I do really appreciate them coming all the way to Laguna Seca to race, because if not, it would have been and me, Alex, and against Jonathan Baker. That probably would have not been good. But they see, the thing is, and that's another thing too. When Texas region came into the scene, they pretty much had all of them. They already had cars built for another series. They were already participating in different series, and they all decided to come into Honda Challenge and be part of the family. And so they did a fantastic job of adapting themselves to the rule book. And some of the rule requests that have been done, it's based on the needs of the Texas region too, And Dane has been really fantastic also at going through the rule book and suggesting some changes in things that we can modify, because we know that we need to evolve. We need to adapt to different things. And I'm not going to shut down a region just because certain little things, right? So
yeah,
it's been.
Well, I mean, you guys have your work cut out for you, because until this last iteration, we were still at best the 9th gen Civic.
Yeah.
Of the 9th gen Civic. And now we're looking at the next generation CTR. We're looking at the 10th gen Civic.
And that's
a lot going on.
That's another ball of wax right there, man, because I know that there's people that are asking for the CTR. Now not only we're introducing a completely different chassis that was basically built for racing, because the CTR is basically that, now we're introducing the use of turbos. So
correct.
Now
I mean, we had those with the 10th gen, with the L15B.
The L15, but that's a 1.5 engine, right? That's not even the capacity that the CTR, and that's more. I mean, the SI is not the same as the CTR. There's a reason why Honda calls it's flagship, right? It's not the same, and so now we have to contend with the use of turbo, the use of bigger brakes, the use of better suspension, the use of all these things. Now, how do I class a CTR in H1? So if I have a CTR and I say, Ken, I want you to class my car. I have a CTR and I want to race it, and I want to be in H1, and I'm actually already building it. I have it in my garage. So let's go. You don't have any data.
Yeah, no, we have no data. but there's ways to approach it, and we've talked about it a little bit, to do the experimental years, the gathering data time, because Kevin Helms has one in his garage.
That's my understanding. Yes.
Being built.
Yep.
Yeah, it's being built. Kevin's a longtime Honda Challenge racer.
Oh yeah.
I think when you talk to him, he'll be completely truthful and honest. Now, that being said,
I have no doubt, right, that he will be more than happy to help us develop that car into the class. Because
the trick balance is going to be
another idea that we were having.
The trick is going to be.
Go ahead.
You take the CTR. You take a CTR. Yeah, we are. It happens. Anyway, I got to get better at podcasting. Like, I got to get better at racing. So you have to take a 2020 CTR or whatever year he has, and make let's say a B series, a B20 VTEC CRX compete with that car in H1. The disparity is so huge that what you're looking at is you need to neuter the CTR as much as possible, and then have to bump every other platform in H1 to a certain level also. But you need true CTR data. You need true J series data. We probably have good K series data.
But this is the thing too, Ken. This is another aspect of the situation. Okay. If you go buy a CTR and you build yourself a CTR, you want the car to perform as best as you can, right? You want the car to. Now, here comes the rules committee, and they tell you, okay, well, you're going to be competing against 1995. Let's say, let's say Jackie, right? K24 1995 chassis. So you're going to have to weigh 3,500 pounds, 3,700 pounds, and I'm going to give you a maximum width tire of 235, and that's it. Oof. And you're going to have to put a restrictor plate on it. We need to minimize the boost as much as possible, because you need to compete against this car. Now, you as a racer spending $80,000 to build a CTR for the track. Do you want to do that? Do you really want to go and build a car to just choke the crap out of it and have these little skinny tires and not being able to do anything with your car? Of course not. You're not going to.
Of course not.
What do? I turn around and I tell Jackie, hey, Jackie, guess what? I'm going to give you another 200 horsepower, and you can fit some 275s in there if you can cut the crap out of those things. I'll give you full flares and everything else so you can compete against the CTR.
Yeah.
So how do we make it even?
Yeah, you guys have your work cut out for you for sure. I'm not. I opened that can of worms to say there's talk. Jaime on Race FF podcast loves to talk about like a one Honda Challenge group, and the dichotomy just within H1 and equalizing just H1. If you had a D series, you would have to weigh 1,000 pounds, which we know we can't cut the cars that much. Well, drag cars get that way, but you would have to have a D series. You would have to allow them turbos. Like, it would be a mess.
Well, look, I know I've heard Jaime's podcast, very interesting. I mean, I talk to Jaime just about all the time on the track. And I've heard his ideas, what he's trying to preach out there, and it's not going to happen. Let me put it this way: Jaime, is not going to happen. Okay, there's not going to be one class in Honda Challenge. Maybe in the future, like the next 100 years, maybe. But as it is right now,
Yeah.
The guys that are running H2, they're not going to spend the money to go up to H1. The guys that are in H1, they're not going to dump their cars to be at the level of H2. Or the guys that are coming in with the CTRs, they're not going to stay at one level, and everybody's going to get brought up to this level to make everybody competitive in H1. It's not going to happen. That's why we have different classes to H2. It's a very competitive class, very competitive.
It really is.
All across the regions. And here in Southern California, I think that we made the ultimate mistake of going down to H4 when all the cars that were available were H2 cars. We killed H2 because we're stupid. There's no other way to describe this. But
you guys made that decision as a group, though, is what I heard. So
we made the decision as a group. It was not the best decision. At the time, there was some guys that were coming in H4, and we tried to. There was not enough H4 cars. H2 cars. So we decided to dumb down the cars and drop B18s and make H4 class bigger. It was probably one of the worst decisions that we could have made, but oh well, let's live with it. And fortunately, the guys that are down here, if they wanted to, they have the ways and means to turn their cars into H2 cars, which is probably going to happen with a couple of cars. And that was the other thing that I was thinking, is that I'm thinking about maybe this is not something that it's still in the works, but we might show up to nationals one car effort for SoCal, and with one of,
bring it on.
This is what I was thinking is I'm gonna, if it happens, I'm gonna bring the best driver for the region in the best car that we can build, and have, I will not be racing, but I will be supporting the car. But this is still in talks. Okay. So I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but we'll see. But going back to the one, well, trust me, the more the merrier. This year in Pittsburgh, I'm thinking if we have 30 cars, it's going to be low, because everybody is, all the cars are in the eastern side. And H1 and H2 are going to be pretty strong. Hopefully, I really hope so. If that happens, I'll be flying out there to say hi to just about everybody that wants to talk to me. But it's one class Jaime is not happening. Let me go back to that.
Well, so that some rumors, because the Mid-Atlantic region, we're quite controversial, and we talk a lot of smack, and we talk to a lot of people. We keep thinking the CTR and maybe the J series, depending on how they pan out, we bring back the Honda Challenge Unlimited.
I've already, yes. Okay, so this was the other idea. Let's make a CTR class. We can call it Honda Unlimited or CTR Turbo Honda Challenge, whatever you want to call it. J series and CTRs, and maybe even the L15s. I don't know. This is the problem right now. How many CTRs there is? I know Helms is.
I only know of 2.
One. Okay, so to create a class, there is a lot of logistics around creating a class. It's not just me opening the Excel sheet and opening a square and writing down CTR in there and build your car and you're welcome. There's more encompassing in the process than just that. Okay, and this has to go all the way to nationals. National committee is the one that approves or disapproves the creation of classes. It's not us. See, there's a lot of things that we as a rules committee and director and everything else, that there's a lot of things that we don't do. Don't forget that there is a nationals committee on top of everything, that they are the ones that ultimately approve or disapprove of stuff that we do in the regions. And creation of classes is one of them. We cannot just go about and say, hey, you know what, guys, let's create another class. Let's do a CTR. So they're gonna tell me, okay, so what is the participation that you have in each region? How many cars do you have already in each region that want to participate? Well, right now I have 2 nationally. And they'll be like, okay, right. So you want me to create a class with contingency, with, all the things that come with the class for 2 cars?
Yeah, isn't it? They approved AHU once before without any cars.
And it didn't work out.
It died. Absolutely. It died right away. I think one car got built. A lot of people talked and one car got built.
Right.
So the trick is, I believe both CTRs could race in the Southeast together.
Right. So
maybe build that class. But I think they will be, to be honest, on my opinion, I think they'll be an ST until we figure that out.
Well, this is another thing, like when I was talking to Justin Colbert, talk to the guys in your region, tell them that you're going to be developing a car for the class. They have the understanding that you're going to be participating. Throw the car in there. Let's see what it can do against existing cars that are already running. Now we have a comparison that we can do, and we can make a better, more logical, educated decision on how to create a rule set. I'm not against the CTR getting into H1. Just get the car in H1, run it. Let's see what it can do against cars that are already running in the class. Now we have, in the first race, the way I built the car, on the first race, the car just demolished everybody. Well, what are you willing to do to the car to bring it back to the same level as everybody else? What do we need to do?
Yep.
Do we need to take boost out of the car? Because one thing is the horsepower, another thing is that how it gets to that horsepower and that torque, right? Because that stupid boost is what that's the deciding factor. What do we do here? So
it's magic.
But yeah, it's one of those things that
you have to limit. If you tell a CTR, which I've done a lot of research on, with bolt-ons on our type of dyno, they can make 390, 400 horsepower just with bolt-ons and a tune, right? So if you take that and then you go, okay, well, let's limit you a little bit, but your weight has to be this much, or you may have to go back and go, okay, K-Series, Jackie, go put cams in your car, right? Who's willing to do that? How much money are you going to cost the entire car?
That's my point, because now you are going to have racers that have worked in their cars for I don't know how long to have them to the rules. And now you go and tell them, okay, now you need to spend another $10,000 to be able to compete against the CTR.
Yeah.
Because we want to include the CTR in the rules or in the class. And they'll be like, well, that's not fair. I already spent my money. I already went through $30,000, $40,000 building and developing a car, and now you want me to spend another $10,000 because you guys want to introduce a new car into the class. Well, I don't think that will be fair for anybody.
Yeah. You guys are definitely in a tough spot.
Oh man, especially with this CTR. It's we've been actually talking about the CTR for 2 years now. But it's not as easy as it looks. It's not like I can just say, okay, let's open up a square and put the CTR in there. And and by the way, let's give it 3,600 pounds just to make it equal. I don't know I don't know. Giving weight to a car like that, first of all, it's not nice to the guy that's building the car, and it's just basically we're pulling data out of our asses when we're doing that, and that's one thing I don't like to do.
Yeah.
We need a complete set of data that substantiates the decisions that we take with every rule request that we do, and that, guys, when you guys write a set of a rule request, try to include as much data as possible. Okay, that's how we go about making the decision. Don't write in there, well, I think that is going to be better for the class because it's going to be $100 cheaper. Thank you. That is not the way to write. That is not the way to write a rule request. Let's say that you want bigger throttle body. Well, I want to know why you want a bigger throttle body, not just because you write there, well, I was in the race and the guy in front of me, he was faster on the straights, so I need more air in my engine. Okay?
Yeah.
So
that's the case for me right now. So
well, but going back, how do I respond to that, Ken? How do I say no, and how do I respond to a rule request like that?
Right.
I honestly I can't. So, what do I tell the guy? You know what? No, sorry.
Yeah, you have to make it less personal in your request. Everybody knows that it's a personal request, but
yeah,
you need to provide. It literally says thorough, and when you say data, do you want? Would you look at a copy of their tune? Would you look at their dyno sheet? They obviously need to provide, let's say for a horsepower request, my mystical 20 horsepower that I'm going to request here after this podcast. I need to provide you with. You probably need to provide data with lap times. You need to provide your build specs on your engine. You need to provide all sorts of data. You can't just write it up now.
Now we
Go
need
ahead.
to understand. We need to understand this thing too, Ken. And I know that everybody knows, but they don't recognize. Each chassis works different on each track. The chassis that is fast on one track is not going to be as fast on the other track. You are not always going to be running in the same bracket. Well, I'm always in the same tent as this guy, except for this track. So now I need more. It's not going to happen because we have to recognize the tracks. The tracks also play into the how fast the car is. Even I mean, are you looking? Does the guy has new tires, and you have a tire set that you go around saying, "Hey, I was running these tires 2 years ago, and I still have them, but I'm not as fast as this guy." Oh, sorry, man. The other guy is running.
You don't have to worry about that with me. My car burns down tires every 2 events. So
yeah, but you're not getting the 295s. So, Yeah, you can get those 295s, no?
I don't. Maybe if I go to 19s, they won't fit. But yeah.
Anyway, but that's the thing, and we all know this. That I mean, I know my car sucks. In my H4 hatch, I have an EK with a B18. The car is probably as fast as the Integras in certain tracks, but you put it in a high speed track, and that thing has a parachute behind, and there's no way that I can catch the Integras. Those Integras, they pass me like I'm just sitting on the straight. But
you should try driving a car that's 1.5 inches wider, inch and almost 3/4 taller, because we can't even lower our cars as much as you guys can on the AA arms.
Right.
So I'm sure it's even bigger than that.
See, but the thing is that
on the track I thought I was going to do well at,
yeah,
I don't do very well at there. No, I thought at the big horsepower track that my car would do amazing, and I have a hard time keeping up with everybody on the straightaways. Where the tight track, when I'm on a McPherson strut car that pushes real bad, I'm working on it. It does much better. I place much better at a tight track. It defies physics to me, but I understand the issues.
And that's the thing. I mean, that's a good thing. You understand the issues. You understand the shortcomings of your chassis. Now, you know what to work on, right? You probably be sending some rule request about chopping the top or something. I don't know, but
yeah, I want to hot rod my 8th gen Civic. I need to do a roof cut like back in the day.
I need to chop it 3 inches on the top, and well, I wouldn't be surprised if I get a request like that, but not from you, of course. but that's
only the idiots that race with me have 8th and 9th gens right now. So
I mean, but listen, we know that it's hard to make everybody 100% happy 100% all the time. You know, we try really hard. The rules committee, it's all this hard working bunch of guys that they just want to have fun with everybody else. You know, and we try to make it as best as possible for everybody. Honestly, I don't know if I think that I've been doing a fairly good job in what I'm doing, trying to organize and restructure the situation. It was something that is not going to happen in 2 months. You know, it's been taking a while to get to the point that we are right now. But I think that, like they say, the proof is in the pudding, right? And we, the H4 cars right now are as close as they've ever been. They are fast. There's a really big field of H2 cars. There's newer cars coming online. We are trying to equalize the whole field, trying to make it even and fair for everybody. And it takes time, man. It takes time. I mean, the professional series, it takes them sometimes a couple of years just to get one chassis to be competitive against the other chassis. You know, we have a ton of them.
You're right. We have handfuls of chassis, handfuls of motors, definitely different combinations that we talked about earlier. And I think people need to realize one winter's rule revisions or 1 year's, because I know you guys don't do it just in the wintertime. You'd never have time for the holidays and stuff. One revision isn't going to fix everything.
No, and
it's going to take multiple iterations.
Let me touch on that really quick. So when somebody sends a rule request, then the way that this works, because it was not done like this before, the person in charge of the series had the document, the Google document. And you still there, Ken? There you are. You disappeared for a second. You disappeared for a second. Before, the person in charge of the series had the Google Doc, and they were able to willy-nilly make changes as they pleased. So you could have a revision every 3 days if you wanted to. This is not healthy either for the series, because you have
it may be why we have the mess right now.
And that's also the case. That's also the case. That, I mean, it's easy for me to open the Google Doc and just, okay, let's do this, boom, and then you publish it, and now your rules has completely changed. That is not healthy. That is not the way to do this. Okay. I mean, to me, the best way would be that there is a rule change every year, a revision to the rules every year, and that gets introduced, because the guys, they go through winter working and fixing their cars to the rules. And if I get another a revision on February, that's not going to be nice for them. That's not the way that this needs to be done, right? The rules come out, you work on your car, you prep the car to the rules. We go to a mid-year revision, and if the changes are not dramatical, if the changes are not a lot, then we might introduce a rule revision mid-year, and then we wait for the end of the year for the rest. So if you guys don't see your rule request, even if it's been approved, if you don't see your rule request right there and then, it's oh my God, it's because it's not going to happen like that. I'm not going to be submitting a rule request every time that a rule change every time we get a rule request. It doesn't work like that, because the only person that has right now the document is Nationals. So I have to request them the Google Doc so I can do the change, and they are the ones that publish the rules. Okay?
Okay.
So that's how it works. So I am not going to be sending them a request every week. Hey guys, I need the Google Doc again. I need the Google Doc again to make more changes. No, I'm sorry, but it's not going to happen like that. It's not fair for everybody to be making changes every week. I just can't do that.
Yeah. The other thing I think might be a complicator is I don't think everybody has the same end of season or big season break, right?
Right.
Don't you guys have a big break in the middle of the year, like June, July, in the holidays for you guys, right?
Not anymore. I mean, the region changed ownership, and now we start in January and we finish in December. I think there's 1 month that we don't run, and in the Nationals month. But yeah, we pretty much go through the whole. I don't know how we're going to do that. But we used to have only 7 events throughout the year, starting March. Then we get in a mid-year break, running through November. And I think that was optimal. But now the new ownership decided that they want to do an event every month. So, I don't know how is that going to be. But I understand what you're saying. Not everybody finishes at the same time. But that's why releasing the new rule book or the new revisions to the rules between October, that seems to be pretty optimal, because then everybody has the end of the year to work on their cars. Oh.
Yeah. And when you're hamstrung by having to request access to make changes, mid-year changes have to be something dramatic before they would get published, right?
It has to be. It has to be something that makes absolute sense on what needs to be done.
Right.
I know that last year, I think the beginning of the year after the rules were published, there was some requests for B18, CAMs, LS, and they were not introduced. But see, the thing is, if you call me or you call your series leader, if the rule has been approved, even though it's not in the rule book, we will tell you to run it. And we will, because the series leader knows.
I'm well aware of that.
Exactly. So the series leader knows that the rules have been changed or will be changed, and it's not. You won't get DQ if you do the change without the rules being published, and they will be published later. Okay, that way we avoid.
I pulled my spreadsheet.
Yeah. Oh, you keep a spreadsheet of all the rule requests?
Yeah, I only have 2 rules requests in.
Nice. I know.
Which is unlike me. Normally I have a handful, so
I would think that your list was going to be at least 3 pages long. No?
No, I have 1 rules request in that I'll request every year until it happens.
Which is?
And then I think 9.1.4 should be deleted. I think it's dumb. But
Oh, is that the one that says that it has to follow the manual completely the way it's supposed to, whatever OE
all
specs and whatever?
specifications in the manual.
I mean, can. Let me tell you one thing, can. So, I mean, even talks about the oil level or something. Come on, who checks their oil level? So if it's like 1 millimeter on there, you won't get the Q.
Hey, it says it has to be to the specifications of the manual.
Okay, well, let me put it out here.
I know a couple of lawyers,
Let me put it out here right now. Guys, come on. You don't need to do that. There are certain rules, yes, of course. They go way above and beyond the expectations of everybody. That's probably one of them. But if somebody protests you for your oil level, I mean, that person needs to be banned from NASA for the rest of their lives.
Well.
So, look.
I mean, it even spells out the specification of what manufacturer can make my valve springs. You see, like when it's worded certain ways and you do these things, like it just becomes problematic. And we have K20Z3 swapped cars, and we have K20Z3 native cars like mine. And technically, if I was a tech inspector, I was chief of tech for Mid-Atlantic for over a decade.
I'm sorry, Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Chad Slag stories. I DQ'd him so many times. Then I bought his car. So
he gave up. He's like, here you go. I'm going H1. Screw you.
Yeah. Well, he got a different one anyway. But yeah. So to me, I read it verbatim, and I won't deviate from that unless told.
If I go to 9.4.1 and I read engines must be completely OEM, which we know that they have to be completely OEM, right? I mean, and conform to the exact specs found in this factory service manual. When we're talking about the specs, we're talking about parts. We're talking about pistons. I know what you're reading in it, but it's not the oil level, and it's not, So let's say engines must be completely OEM. Period, and we delete the rest of it. Would that be better?
No, that's worse.
Okay.
But so my issue. And I thought I put it in
and now for everybody that's listening,
comparison for you guys.
Everybody that's listening, this is how we do this.
Right, and I'm boring them already. But if you look at limited prep rules, I should pull up the spreadsheet so I don't lie, because I didn't memorize my spreadsheet. But they would get valve springs. In the Z3 motor.
Okay.
Where I can only get, if you say specifications.
Yeah.
And completely OEM, valve springs are not, aftermarket valve springs are not OEM. And if you say the exact specifications, it specifies two vendors.
Let me tell you one thing. On my A3, okay, in limited prep, when I had the K28.3, I was running SI valve springs, which are single valve springs versus the double valve springs for the A3. And they are still factory OE valve springs, which I think that you do have the single coil valve springs. You don't have the double valve springs in yours, do you?
Nope. Singles.
And those are probably
I'm just saying, but in limited, you can have aftermarket. You can go buy Supertex.
Yeah. Which I think they're crap.
You can buy Totas if you wanted.
Yeah.
Well, you could buy Totas if you wanted, which I don't think are crap. And then in the Z3, in limited prep, you guys get a 62.5 millimeter throttle body. I'm stuck with the stock one because it specifies it. That's 60.75. Well, it specifies it in the rules, but I'm just saying there's a disparity.
Okay, so you send me that rule
between
request.
them.
You send me that rule request, and my question will be: are you able to reach your max horsepower?
I don't. But this is why we should have these conversations, and why you should supply somebody the denial. Yes, I can absolutely hit my max horsepower.
Yes.
So can the other person, but the other person can hit it earlier,
Okay,
and run it longer. So
okay.
they can run a longer or an earlier, longer flat curve than I ever could.
And that's when I go to the 1 point whatever section, and I request additional information, and I will be telling you, okay, can you supply me with a dyno sheet of yours and his?
Oh, well, I don't know anybody who's doing it. I'm just saying that I don't own the other car.
I know.
But I'm telling you, there's the disparity. So
based on
applies to
right, it's the disparity based on your perspective. I can't go on perspectives. I have to go on. I have this dyno sheet. I have this dyno sheet. I overimpose those two dyno sheets, and this guy has a flatter torque curve than he does. Basically the same engine. We need to make them even, and that's when it happens.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I built the wrong car then, because I think a Z3 limited prep car would eat. It would be a destroyer. It would absolutely destroy.
At what, 2850, I think it is. And
no,
they can only run
2750.
Okay, and they have
It's
to run
2750.
2750. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, right?
And another reason I would say it's 50 pounds between the two cars, but they get double A arms.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the other problems I have, I built the wrong car again. Well, sort of. I'll live with it. It's fine. Is almost every, let's say, not top tier strut is remote reservoir to get double adjustable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could buy Penske's. I think that's the only one that doesn't.
I totally get it, Ken. Totally get it. And that's why we have so many problems trying to equalize everybody.
Yeah.
Because this is just your particular setup.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And
now there's other 10, 15 guys that have the same problem that are not running your car.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah. But the other thing is I could put in like the K20 Type R, and we could run this comparison.
Yeah.
And the K20 Type R in a limited prep vehicle tuned correctly should be untouchable.
But
period.
The Type R is not
should be
the rules.
Absolutely untouchable.
The Type R is not.
I know. I'm just saying, like, when you extrapolate to all the engines that are out there.
Yeah.
Like that's.
Well, yeah, of course. We go back to the Type R, right? Type R throughout the years has been the best that Honda can produce. And there's a reason why there's an R, right?
I still think it's the go-to B series. This is the go-to B series in my opinion.
The B18 Type R.
The easiest button.
You know, I have one sitting in my yard, so.
But put it on, it's worth money. Put it in the garage.
But maybe we'll run it in nationals and then sell it.
Maybe. I would recommend your K-swap car, but
yeah, I don't know what happened
about that offline.
I honestly don't know what happened to that car in nationals. I don't know. For everybody, never show up to a major race without having run the car before. That's my advice.
That's fair.
Everybody else, That's my advice. Never show up to a gunfight with a gun that's never been shot. So never been fired.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely. Yeah. I 100% agree. I'm sorry you did that, but
well, I am too. But I was happy. I was really happy for Jonathan, for the guys in Texas that show up, Dane, Scott, all the guys. I was surprised that Scott was able to make that RSX work like that. Honestly, I thought that he was not going to. And he proved me wrong, and I'm really happy about that. And Dane with his B16, he was very strong, But I mean, Jonathan, you can tell that he really deserved it, and he really wanted that trophy, and I'm really happy that he got it. I mean, I would have been happy for anybody to get it, and but the drive. We were in communication since we left. He even was asking me, "Hey, what's a biodiesel? Like, can I put that in my truck?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think so." No. I mean, you're in California, bro. That's all we have, biodiesel. Yeah, I'm really happy for them, and I do really appreciate the participation of everybody. It's all I want, and I know that it's all everybody wants, is just to be able to go to the track, run at the track with a whole bunch of friends, maybe bang wheels here and there, and at the end of the day, sit down and play your in-cams and drink a beer and see how crazy everybody is and have a laugh at it. That's the ultimate goal that we have. And
absolutely. And
we are just trying to make it fair for everybody.
Yeah. I really appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate all the work that you do, all the rules committee folks do. I know Mike is tired of hearing from me. I'm sure Jackie's tired of hearing from me. You guys have a thankless job, and I want to thank you guys again, because I help. Okay, that's whatever. I'll help you any way I can, because that's the kind of person that I am.
I do appreciate all your help, and I do appreciate the help any help that we can get. I mean, Justin Colbert out there, he's now working on helping us too. Anybody that is out there that can help, it's much appreciated, because at the end of the day, we are not full experts on this topic. We all learn as we go.
Absolutely not.
With everybody else, it's guys. I am not a freaking expert in Honda. I go with what you guys provide me. That's all I can do. That's all we can do. If you give me, then I understand.
We have a very diverse pool of engines, chassis, and drivers, and we all need to help, because in my opinion, I've never won. I've never got on the podium, so I'll start there. But being able to race, like you said, with my friends and be closely matched with my friends, and come off the track, nobody's broken, nobody's bent. We had a good time no matter where we finish. We high fives, hugs, beers. It happens. And that's the best time. I have a great time in the car, but it's almost as good as the time I have with my friends. And we need to work together as the whole of the community to make this class grow and be better. In
absolutely. I mean, to me, the best time is when I get to impound, open that door, everybody gets out of that car, and everybody has a freaking big ass smile on their face. That's the best time. That's the best time. Everybody's hugging each other, except for Greg throwing bottles at Joe. But we'll talk about that in another episode.
Another episode.
Another episode. Yeah.
Well, so I think we're going to wrap that up, because we're almost to 2 hours, and I'm pretty sure you and I could talk for another 5 or 6. So
I'm pretty sure. Yes, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Ken. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome.
And I hope that
I appreciate it. Really do.
This kind of clears a little bit better the process and the situations we go through when we're trying to make any type of decisions. And I hope that the guys understand, you know. And let me say one more time just to close this thing, Jaime, you're not getting a 1 class. Thank you.
All right. That's a wrap, guys. I appreciate it.
I love Jaime.
Until next time, keep working on yourself, keep working on the car, and let's get faster.